Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Carissa and I'm a mental performance consultant. I work with women athletes in helping them gain confidence, play with a lot more focus so that they can have fun and be well as they pursue their athletic goals. Today I want to chat with you about 3 different ways of thinking about well-being. The first way of thinking about well-being is thinking about well-being as happiness. Just a basic, are you happy? This way of thinking about well-being essentially says that we chase things that feel good. Doesn't matter what they are, but as long as they feel good, they're contributing to our well-being. And I'm going to chat more about why there's limitations to this way of thinking about well-being and how we can shift into different ways of thinking about well-being, particularly as athletes who are on a really challenging journey, or which can be a challenging journey as they pursue their athletic goals. So we can think about well-being purely as happiness, doing things that feel good. The second way of thinking about well-being is thinking about well-being as flourishing. And the research says that in order to flourish, there are 4 different things you can do to encourage this type of well-being. One of those things is to pursue intrinsic goals. That means that you are chasing things that feel good for you and you're choosing to do them because you enjoy them. The second part of well-being as flourishing is that your behaviors are self-directed and chosen. So if you're choosing this goal, you are also choosing to act upon it, and it is at your own volition. Nobody is telling you or forcing you to do it. The third part of thinking about well-being as flourishing is really being mindful and totally engaged in the process as you pursue your goals. Finally, when we're thinking about well-being as flourishing, it's really important that the things we're chasing and the entire process fulfills 3 basic psychological needs we have as humans. Those 3 needs are having choice, which we kind of already touched on, you are choosing to pursue this goal. The second basic need is connection. So as you're on your journey, do you feel connected to others? Do you feel connected to the sport space that you're in? The third part is that you feel confident, that you believe in yourself along the way. It's a lot easier to have fun when you believe you can accomplish the task at hand. So this is thinking about well-being as flourishing. A little bit more complex image than thinking about well-being purely as showing up with happiness. There's a little bit more intent behind it, a little bit more purpose behind it. The third way of thinking about well-being is thinking about well-being as achieving self-realization. Self-realization really just means you are showing up fully as your most authentic, genuine self. And what a beautiful way to think about well-being. So when we're thinking about well-being in this way, there are, again, 4 different things to consider, or 4 different things that you can think about if you're trying to pursue well-being in a way that is self-actualizing, in a way that's helping you show up really authentically. The first part of well-being as self-realization is finding out what your skills and what your strengths are. From there, the second part is putting energy in and dedicating time and effort to continuing to develop those strengths, skills, talents that you have. The third part to thinking about well-being as self-actualization is finding spaces that allow you to use those strengths and to use those skills. And then the fourth part is really just finding as many opportunities as possible to use as many of your strengths as you can, because we know you're not just a one-trick pony. You got a lot of skills and talents up your sleeves. Find as many spaces as possible to start using these skills. So realizing your skills, practicing your skills, finding spaces, 3 and 4, finding spaces to exist in where you can really capitalize on the strengths and skills that you have are all part of thinking about well-being, or how you can think about well-being if you're wanting to get to that self-actualization, really full and authentic expression of yourself. Now I want to chat a little bit more about how these 3 models connect to the sport experience and connect to you showing up as an athlete. I truly believe that in sport, you can be well and perform well at the same time. Those do not have to be mutually exclusive. And hopefully sharing about these different ways of being well can help shape that idea for you so that you believe it too. When we think about well-being as happiness, purely happiness, there are some limitations with that approach in thinking about you really showing up to your potential as an athlete. When we think about well-being as happiness, it is purely what feels good in the moment, which can often be a lot of instant gratification. You know what? Scrolling on our phones feels really good. Is that necessarily conducive to us achieving goals, capitalizing on our strengths? Probably not. So if your goal is to just be happy, it's going to be really hard for you to accomplish these big goals, and especially enjoy the journey along the way, because as humans, we're meant to experience a lot more than just happiness. Happiness is an emotion, and like any emotion is going to be fleeting depending on what's going on, unless we're constantly chasing those little hits of excitement and little hits of things that feel good. But you are so capable of more than just those small daily doses of things that feel good. When we think about rather than just chasing happiness, I'm going to strongly encourage you to lean into achieving well-being if you are also interested in performing well in your sport through flourishing or through self-actualization, or through these two different ideas. So if you choose to pursue your athletic goals from the angle of flourishing, it's really about setting goals that align with your values, setting goals that are important to you and that you value, and choosing to take action on those, even if the action isn't necessarily something you want to do. That's like an athlete who is injured might not want to do their rehab, might not want to do those easy exercises, but they know that in the long run, that's what's best for their well-being and that's what's best for their performance goals. So they choose to do the rehab, knowing that it's what's best for them in the future, even if in the moment they're resistant to it. This other idea of pursuing well-being from the idea of self-actualization is more so about finding what your strengths are and using those strengths in sports. So what are you good at? Are you a good leader? Are you a good communicator? Are you good at making decisions? Are you good at understanding the game? Are you just physically strong or skilled in your sport? What are you good at? And this can be sport specific, or this can just be character traits that you have. But once you know what your strengths are, once you know what your skills are, really focusing on honing those things in and bringing them into sport as often as you can. And again, this is similar to thinking about well-being as flourishing. Thinking about well-being as self-actualization means that you might not always want to do the thing to build a strength. You might not always want to show up in the space and apply your strengths. But these two ways of thinking are saying that engage in the task, engage in the challenge, be intentional in pursuing your goals, and well-being will come, and will performance. Performance and well-being can exist together. And if you still don't believe me, stay tuned, because I'm going to keep talking about how you as an athlete can be well and perform well at the same time. In all of this, I'm pretty much not going to tell you to lean on the well-being as happiness way of thinking, and definitely encourage you to explore well-being as flourishing and pursuing goals, or well-being as self-actualization, self-realization, and pursuing really value-based actions. And the reason why is that taking action towards our goals is going to sometimes require us to do things that we don't want to do. I'm thinking, for example, an athlete gets injured. The last thing an athlete wants to do is sit on the bench. The last thing they want to do is go to physio. The last thing they want to do is do these weak exercises where they don't feel as capable as they used to. But taking time off, going to physio, doing those exercises, even if your body and mind are oh, this is so frustrating, shifting that story to say I know these things are going to be best for me in the long term, even if it's frustrating right now, and I'm going to choose to do this because it's good for me, even if I have some resistance towards it. Even if it's not exactly what I want to do, I know that committing to my rehab is what's going to give me my best shot at being the best athlete I can be right now. And that is just what I need. Like, accepting the fact that this is the part where, like, being an athlete's not always fun, and we need to be okay with showing up and doing things we don't always want to do. So rather than just chasing happiness as an athlete who wants to perform well, and now you know you can be well at the same time, it's going to be really important that you take intentional action, and that when you engage in those actions, you are really mindful and fully there in the moment when you are doing the thing that aligns with your goal, even if it's not something that you particularly enjoy. You can either set your goals up based on your values, if you're thinking about flourishing, or you can set your goals up based on what your strengths are and the different spaces you're in to capitalize on those strengths. So pursue well-being either based on your values and what makes a good life for you, or based on what your strengths are and how you can use your strengths in the different areas that you find yourself in. So those are going to be the two different ways I'm going to recommend pursuing both performance and well-being as an athlete.